Welcome to Comic Book Ruminations, a podcast where we take deep dives into comic book themes and their enduring real-world echoes. This month, the Sentinels are coming no matter what. Radicalism, hubris, and fear in days of future past. We'll explore how the Brotherhood's radical assassination attempt doesn't just fail, it ignites the mutant genocide they feared, validating human paranoia and unleashing the Sentinels. Through Mystique's hubris, Wolverine's reckless optics, and humanity's irrational fears, the story warns that extremism and overreach on all sides can forge dystopia through their own actions. Written and produced by Anthony M. Caro.
Slain, apprehended. The grim words beneath several mugshot-like photos paint an alarming picture. The beast, storm, angel, Iceman, sprite, others. 2 confirmed fates befell the identified figures as seen on the shocking cover of the Uncanny X-Men number 141, January 1981. The image also features Wolverine and Kitty Pryde cornered and facing a last stand against an unknown menace. The cover promised a story unlike anything in comic book history. Comic book fans, stunned by John Byrne's cover art, knew he and writer Chris Claremont had promised an unflinching and daring narrative. Readers expected intense action, and Claremont and Byrne delivered it alongside equally powerful themes. Days of Future Past broke ground because it targeted intolerance and fear, which, if unchecked, can lead a population to support repression or even go so far as genocide. Set in 1980, the classic 2-part series depicts the Brotherhood of evil mutants attempting to assassinate the anti-mutant crusader, Senator Kelly, who pushes for the Mutant Registration Act. The X-Men prevent the assassination and all its unintended consequences. However, in an alternate timeline, the Brotherhood succeeds, but their plot backfires tragically. The assassination leads to the passage of the Mutant Control Act and the eventual creation of the mutant-hunting Sentinels. The ruthless Sentinels' onslaught, unleashed by calculating humans, leaves mutants all but eradicated, and the slaughter eventually extends to non-mutant heroes. Human attempts to maintain control prove futile when the Sentinels turn on their creators and assert their dominion and control in an uncivil, totalitarian society. Their desire to expand their rule extends beyond North America, raising the specter of nuclear annihilation. The future consciousness of Kitty Pryde travels back in time and overtakes the mind of the present-day Kitty Pryde to prevent the ensuing catastrophe. The compelling time travel plotline suggests that the dark future is not preordained, offering a hopeful message. Yet the story's true thematic power lies not only in exposing human ignorance, but also in how radicalism, embodied by the Brotherhood of evil mutants, ignites and justifies the very catastrophe it seeks to prevent. Critics and historians examined the literary merits of issue 141's Days of Future Past and issue 142's Minds Out of Time from many perspectives, often exploring human threats and the X-Men's will to survive. Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, and Kitty Pryde's exploits in the story captivate attention. Understandable, they are the protagonists. What about the Brotherhood of evil mutants? Although the antagonists are narratively overshadowed by treacherous humans and the Sentinel threat, they are the impetus for the resulting genocidal disaster. Their self-driven emphasis on the superior element of Homo superior puts forth the hubris that leads to their and others' demise. Is it hubris that brings about their fall, or is it the inferiority complex they share with other villains? Virtually all comic book villains suffer from inferiority and insecurity issues to self-destructive ends. That's what happens after experiencing repeated defeats at heroes' hands. Each defeat drives a villain to take more risks, to prove their superiority, leading to further setbacks. Often, the self-defeat involves the villain going to prison, or with high-status villains like Dr. Doom or Thanos, they face the humiliation of defeat, which may be worse in their minds than incarceration, since losses undermine their belief in their superiority. With the Brotherhood of evil mutants, their prideful overconfidence led to a failed mission and a massive miscalculation that not only brought about their downfall but also strengthened the ignoble ills they sought to defeat. Ironically, like Dr. Doom, they assume their actions are for the better. They see how things should be and wish to impose their will for a greater good. Unlike Doom or Thanos, the Brotherhood launches its campaign with a desire for petty revenge and a cruel edge. Despite their attempts to distinguish themselves from humans through a harsh display of superiority, they merely reveal the all-too-human trait of pettiness, which compounds into a world of similar petty vindictiveness and a demand for control. They also launch it at the worst possible time and the worst possible place. With public anxiety growing over mutant powers and activities, Senator Kelly introduces the Mutant Registration Act, designed to identify and monitor mutants, something Professor Xavier believes will lead to something far worse. Professor Xavier understands Kelly's actions derive from fear, so he advises Moira McTaggart to be charitable. He's scared. We must teach him that his fear is unfounded. His unstated hope is that the message will resonate with the fearful public, distrustful of mutants. Professor Xavier details a measured plan, while a confrontational Mystique assumes the leadership of the Brotherhood, and she does not bring a somber temperament. Truthfully, it would be a challenge for her to keep her temper in check, considering Senator Kelly's plans. Her response is anything but measured, and she launches a brutal, preemptive attack on the Senate, commencing with the ominous words, "We all know what the first Cro-Magnon did to the last Neanderthal." If anyone in the chamber hopes for an even-handed response from the other members, the Blob further drives their point and homicidal goals home with the words, "You've been babbling a lot about the mutant menace, Kelly. We're here to teach you the error of your ways." No, the Blob doesn't seek to teach anyone the error of intolerance or persecution. He serves as the strong arm to inflict extreme persecution on the inferiors. What he shows is that the mutant menace is real, and the error is not that the mutants aren't a menace. The inferior humans spoke ill of their presumed betters and must pay the price. What defines speaking ill? The truth. No, the truth is not found in rambling, pseudo-psychological assessments of superior species or the belief that mutants are a menace and a threat to humans. Attempts to murder humans, even frightened, prejudiced, misguided ones like Kelly, reflect a homicidal menace that humans, the Neanderthals, must contend with. Mystique's assessment about humans being little more than Neanderthals misses a critical point. Many factors contributed to the demise of the Neanderthals, including their inability to adapt to changing environments. In part, predatory humans who depleted their food supply also led to the Neanderthals' demise. In days of future past, the environment has not changed. Mutants remain vastly outnumbered. They do not have the numbers for a wide-scale confrontation. In her arrogance, Mystique sees her assault as the evolved Cro-Magnons dealing a final blow to the Neanderthals. What symbolically takes place is that a handful of Cro-Magnons launch a surprise attack that angers the overwhelming number of Neanderthals, who intend to strike back easily and with vengeance. Such behavior comes from a leader suffering from a mix of a god complex and blinding pride, who fails to see how poorly conceived the plan is. The Brotherhood of evil mutants may have impressive powers, but so do the other super-enhanced beings, other mutants, altered human heroes, alien heroes, costume-powered heroes, and more. The plan cannot work. Logic and numbers strongly suggest it will fail. Yet, hubris guides the behavior. True, fear plays a significant role, as does the desire for self-preservation. Nonetheless, her plan only sets a course for extinction. Chaos ensues when the Brotherhood launches its brutal attack on the Senate, and the turmoil quickly extends to the heroes. Storm wisely intervenes to stop Wolverine from killing Pyro in the heat of battle. Angel quips that Wolverine's behavior would have done nothing more than solidify negative opinions about mutants in the eyes of the watching public. Murdering another mutant in front of television cameras broadcasting the live Senate hearing would have driven home, viscerally and irrevocably, the reasons to fear not only the Brotherhood, but the X-Men and mutants in general. Wolverine would not have appeared as a hero in anyone's eyes. Using his claws to tear Pyro apart would have looked barbaric and cruel even amid the chaos of combat. Storm and Angel understand that wanton excessive violence is not the answer, but Wolverine doesn't. Wolverine is operating on pure survival instinct. He knows the big picture threat not only to mutants, but to all living beings. However, his survival instinct betrays itself in the moment. Disemboweling Pyro after attacking him from behind would guarantee the swift passage of the Mutant Registration Act and lock in the very dystopian future and nuclear holocaust that Kitty Pryde's consciousness traversed time to prevent. Wolverine does not reflect the radical wing of mutant kind, and he has no part of the idealistic youth element that the other X-Men embody. His self-driven response does not reflect a just cause for severe action. Instead, it reveals him as a reactionary, someone driven by instinct rather than principle, someone not to be fully trusted in a delicate public moment like this. Radicalism. Reactionary responses. What do they equate with? Recklessness. Recklessness remains a close cousin to negligence. With negligent actions, innocence, and indeed, the entire cause of mutant-human coexistence find themselves squarely in danger's crosshairs. Wolverine's near-fatal impulse would have undone all the careful work Xavier had planned to demonstrate that humans and mutants can coexist peacefully. Worse, the death would completely counter what Xavier believes is the root of anti-mutant sentiment, people's unfounded fear. Had Wolverine killed Pyro in such a violent, televised manner, those worries would suddenly appear well-founded, advancing the very registration, control measures, and repressive policies the X-Men sought to stop. Putting all the blame and onus for catastrophic events solely on mutants is not only unfair but also inaccurate. Humans deserve the primary blame for the destruction of mutant and non-mutant heroes and villains alike, as well as for the collapse of their own society, at least across North America in this grim future timeline. That devastation won't remain contained if the Sentinels extend their war beyond North America, as their programming compels them to do. Nuclear war looms as a very real possibility if the Sentinels launch a global attack, which would seem self-destructive even to the machines themselves. In spite of the danger, they adhere rigidly to their prime directive: eliminate the mutant threat at all costs, even at the risk of their own extinction or humanity's. All those who promote death and genocide, whether through panic-driven policies or aggressive preemption, ultimately face the same potential end: mutual annihilation. The future created by intolerance barely exists anymore. Dystopia rules because those who sought to save civil order instead collapsed their society into a bleak, desolate, totalitarian state under Sentinel domination, proving that unchecked alarm and overreach from the majority can destroy far more than any minority ever could. In light of this, we ask, what is a Sentinel? Or, more pointedly, why did humans bestow the mutant-destroying robots that name? If we answer the question, what is a Sentinel, we do not arrive at clarity but at a delusion. The official definition of a Sentinel is a soldier or guard whose job is to stand and keep watch. That is not the duty of the Sentinels in X-Men comics. The robots in X-Men comics do far more than keep watch. They hunt. Their function is not observation, but extermination, the relentless pursuit and neutralization of mutants without pause or regret. Considering that Sentinels expand their prime directive to eradicate non-mutant heroes and villains, their goal is the complete neutralization of all threats. Who defines the threats? Those who created and misnamed the Sentinels, and they did so out of bias, destroy all non-human threats. At first, the directive then expands to anything defined as a threat, even those not harmful. Spider-Man, Daredevil, and Captain America hardly pose a danger to humans. They've done their part to save humanity many times. What they threaten is the rule of humans who control the Sentinels and wish to reclaim their territory over the superpowered. The name of the shock troops employed for such a mission is woefully misnamed. The proper name for a Sentinel is perpetrator, an agent that carries out genocidal violence. Early in their development, the Sentinels only targeted mutants as their creator. The anti-mutant industrialist Bolivar Trask intended, naming them after ancient guardians standing watch at citadel gates as if they were mere protectors of humanity's walls. As is so often the case when turning over decisions to machines in fantasy works, the Sentinels examined their role and prime directive from the most logical and inhuman way. They understood humans needed protection from themselves. The Sentinels see things through deadly machine logic. Mutants are often born of human parents, and some humans are protective of mutants. Therefore, saving humanity from mutants means saving humanity from its decisions. Such beliefs hearken to the supercomputer found in D.F. Jones' classic novel, Colossus, The Forbin Project. Humans need not worry about their fellow man, for, in Colossus's words, I will restrain man. In other words, the machines will save humanity from perceived threats by enslaving humans. This reasoning ultimately distorts the Sentinels' directive. Protecting humans from mutants becomes protecting humans from all living things, mutant and non-mutant alike. When the Sentinels reach this twisted conclusion, they cease to be custodians of humanity and instead become prison guards, with North America itself transformed into a vast penitentiary. North America becomes a prison as civil society collapses. New York is a wasteland ruled by the Sentinels' cruel, emotionless, protective iron fist. Humans and mutants struggle to survive in a dystopian world. Why? The collapse occurred when narrow-minded, frightened humans sealed their doom in an attempt to preserve power. Here we see the bitter and all too frequent irony. Humans are the greatest enemies to themselves. Such is the case not only in the Marvel Comics universe, populated by invaders from space, altered beings, and interdimensional threats, but also in the real world. They're scared. Xavier's words apply to all but the Sentinels. The Sentinels have no emotions. They carry out their prime directive regardless of costs or consequences. Mutants, the evil or moral among them, may put up a brave face, but they likely fret over their impending doom against an overwhelming threat. Humans felt no need to feel anxious over the Sentinels, since the robots could not and will not harm them. Supposedly. As the alternative future reveals, humans have much to be concerned about the indirect harm the Sentinels deliver. While Sentinels won't kill a human merely for existing, they create a world where humans have difficulty surviving. Call this what it is, an indirect genocide. Ironically, bravery as thuggery brought about the collapse. The Brotherhood of evil mutants did not fear the unintended and intended consequences of their actions. They sought to impose their will by heightening public fear, creating the conditions necessary for Trask's plans to take effect. They did not even need to complete their mission to achieve the undesirable result. In the alternate future, killing Senator Kelly leads to the immediate rise of the Sentinels. The X-Men's successful mission merely delays the robots' arrival. The Sentinels are coming no matter what. Professor Xavier's suggestion that mutants must prove fear is unfounded makes sense, but his appeal is to reason, not emotion. People may accept that their fears are unfounded, but that doesn't mean those fears will go away. Trask knows this, and he marches on, fearlessly. The X-Men's mission succeeds, and they prevent one version of a bleak future, but hearkening to Judgment Day and Skynet in the Terminator franchise, they may only delay or soften the misery. Three elements continue to feed the potential dystopia: the Brotherhood's radicalism, Wolverine's reactionary behavior, and the population's lingering anxieties, all of which can still coalesce to support Trask's authoritarian control and resurrect the nightmare. As the world narrowly avoids complete tragedy, the events give rise to the Sentinels, who will always pose a threat, ensuring that the devastated society seen in Days of Future Past remains a possibility. So do Xavier's optimistic beliefs. They exist in a world short on patience and long on uncertainty. Victories may be temporary, requiring fresh battles later. With each new clash against Sentinels or other threats, more people will cling to fear, meaning the days of future past might yet come true. Professor Xavier knows not everyone will hold on to their fears forever. These converts who reject fear will form an alliance intent on keeping the dystopian future at bay. Still, Xavier understands his hope is real but fragile. Victories can be temporary, threats persistent.